good afternoon everyone, and welcome to today's meeting, both the public and the councillors that are here today and those that are listening to us online. As you can see, I am not the Mayor. I'm Hugh McKenzie, the Deputy Mayor, who's deputising for the Mayor, who currently is on local government business in Hobart. So thank you for your attendance. I'd just like to start by acknowledging the Palawa people as the traditional owners on the land in which we meet here today, and pay my respects to elders past and present and any of those of Aboriginal descent who are here with us today. Mayoral acknowledgements. I want to start with two. One is just to acknowledge the work that's been undertaken in the last few days by our emergency staff. We started monitoring the situation last Friday, and by last Saturday we commenced operating 24 hours a day, which concluded on Tuesday morning. We've been dealing with power supply issues for critical infrastructure, 2 stormwater pump stations along Boland and Racecourse Crescent, flooding in the North Esk River, and wind damage. The wind event resulted in creation of 280 jobs for the City of Launceston, the majority which were completed by the end of this week. As a close of business, our response would have been to consumed about 3,000 man hours, as at 2 p.m. today, or as in a couple of days ago, we had 1,556 properties without power, some which were into their 4th day. We've been receiving over 20 people a day at our LAC facilities. We need to reinforce the message from Thursday today that the winds are likely to get up and there are going to be some more potential damaging activities over the next few days. And we've also announced that we can take green waste to Launceston Waste Centre free of charge at this point in time. Whilst most of the jobs we've got will be completed by the end of the week, there will be some that will go on for some weeks. We also want to take note of the fact that there are people in our rural communities who are struggling to get water for themselves. Power is a big issue, loneliness, food hygiene, and we're struggling to connect with all of these people. So what we hope is we do what Tasmanians do, is we look out for each other. If you haven't heard from your neighbour, we just ask that you check in on them to make sure that they're okay, because it's a pretty stressful time for a lot of people out there. So thank you very much. Thank you. So first of all, we'll start with declarations of interest. Oh, sorry, apologies. Get my working sheet right. So we have apologies today from the Mayor, Garwood, our Councilor Gibson, and our CEO, Sam Johnson. So any declarations of interest? Councillor Dawkins? 17.4. Thank you. Yep, so noted. Any other conflicts of interest to declare? No? If not, we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes from the last council meeting on the 22nd of August, I think. Somebody like to move that they are a true and correct record? Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Britton. Any discussion? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Okay, abstain. So Councillor Pentridge has abstained on the basis he wasn't here. Otherwise, all councillors present, including me, are voting in favour of it. Councillors' workshops. There are council workshops on the 22nd of August 2024 and 29th of August 2024. Would somebody like to move that they be received? Thanks, Councillor Britton. Councillor Dawkins, second. Anyone to speak to them? Second or first? No. Anyone else wish to speak to them? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried, all councillors present. Councillors' leave of absence note application, that will be dealt with in closed council. Community reports, we were to have a community report from St Vincent de Paul, but unfortunately they were unable to make it, so they'll be deferred to a later date. Public questions, public question time. There are public questions on notice, which was one from Mr Ganninan and one from Mr Norman, which have been answered in the documentation that's been circulated. Public questions without notice, I think we have a couple. So just noting that if you are going to speak, could you move to the microphone, state clearly your name and address. You may ask then up to 3 questions. Please direct your questions to me. If I can't answer them or refuse to answer them, I'll provide you with an answer why. If your questions are accepted, they will be either answered at this meeting or taken on notice and answered at a future council meeting. Your questions are not to be defamatory, inappropriate or abusive, or intended to embarrass any person. Debate or discussion about questions or answers is not permitted. Please note that only the questions asked at today's meeting without preamble will be published in the council's minutes. So first, notice for questions. Not sure. I think we've got. Thank you.
My name is Connor Graham. I live at 2 Invermay Road, Northern Inverness car park. My first question is, by not having a single designated camping area within Launceston, does the council believe it is better to have homeless people camped in parks and around the CBD?
The answer is we have a very difficult situation with homelessness and people who can't find places to accommodate. And our issue is we've been very liberal with where people where people actually camp. We haven't endeavoured to move people on unless there's a creation of public disturbance or other issues. So the intention is that we would like them to reach out to organisations who help with people in those difficult issues with hopefully they can be rehoused. If they're not, we do appreciate and we know that there are people that are sleeping rough out there and using campsites in various areas.
Yep. My second question is, in the aftermath of one of our most damaging storms in decades, why has the council chosen now to move on some of Launceston's most vulnerable people from the North Inverness car park without offering a single alternative?
I might just pass that question over to our General Manager, Chelsea.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. Thank you for the question, Connor. The orders were actually prepared late last week. The timing of the serving of those notices was up to Tasmania Police and their operational needs to do that.
Okay. And my third question is, being an underage homeless boy whose family has lived in this valley thousands of years, where in Launceston can I pitch my tent where I won't be moved on or prosecuted?
I might pass that across to you, Chelsea.
So we have a number of people sleeping rough in the municipality, and you might be or may not be familiar with our homelessness statement of commitment. The moving on of people who are experiencing homelessness is a last resort. It's not something that we do unless we feel like we've exhausted all other options. There are a number of service providers in the municipality that we encourage people who've been camping at the Roundhouse to access. And I can certainly list, but I won't, a number of other places where people are currently camping individually who we haven't moved on.
Right, okay.
Thanks, Connor. I think there was another question without notice.
Yeah, g'day, my name's Damien Page, no address. My first question is, with all the redevelopment and so said progress in Launceston, has there been any thought at all for the population of Launceston's most vulnerable?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question?
With all the redevelopment and so-called progress in Launceston, has there been any thought to what to do with the most vulnerable of Launceston's population?
I might again, I think there's been a lot of work we've done. We've obviously created a homelessness committee where we're looking at those sorts of things, and there are a number of initiatives that we're currently working our way through, but I might just ask to General Manager Van Reet.
We're in the process of preparing a scope for our housing strategy. So our housing strategy will seek to address the housing needs of the entire municipality, and a key plank of that is making sure that people can access affordable housing. You might also not be aware that last meeting the Mayor brought a motion with regard to finding ways to potentially access federal government funding, and it was specified in that motion that the purpose of using council land would be for the development of affordable housing.
Okay. What is the financial value that Launceston City Council puts on a human life?
The financial, sorry.
Value. What is the financial value that the Launceston City Council puts on a human life? Because these are people who are living on the streets.
The financial value, again, I might pass that to General Manager.
Sorry, I'm getting a bit upset. That's a really difficult question to answer because everybody's important and you can't put a price on someone's life. And certainly my network and the people that work within it are really committed to taking care of everyone in our city. And I appreciate these are difficult times for many people, and we're doing our utmost to support everyone because everybody counts. And I can't answer your question because there is no price you can put on a human life.
Fair question. And if we're hiding us and putting us away, is it like a thought that they don't exist anymore? Is it out of sight, out of mind?
Sorry, I missed the first part of that question.
With hiding us, is it like that we don't exist? We still exist. Is it out of sight, out of mind? Is that the attitude?
That's certainly not the attitude. Our Homelessness Advisory Committee has a by name list because we want to know the names of the people who are doing it tough in our city, and we certainly do care.
Any other questions without notice? I'd stay here.
I'm Kirsten Ritchie from Strike It Out Inc. I'm located at 37 Birch Avenue, Newstead. I appreciate everything that the Homelessness Committee are actioning with putting plan with affordable housing in place. But we have an urgency here right now today of having options available for our homeless community members, but offering affordable accommodation or some safe spaces set up for them, which, what is available today for these people?
Unfortunately, we continue to work with this, and I've spoken to you on a number of occasions, Kirsten. Mayor and I have met with you. We've requested information from you in regards to how you're going to operate sites in and around Launceston. As far as I understand, we're still working with you on those matters.
Okay, so what's the time frame with you coming back to us with some potential sites, please?
I believe a number of sites have been sent out in regards to the number of sites around the state and around the city. A lot of the ones on Launceston City Council side are not suitable for lots of reasons. We're still happy to work with you, and we'll talk to you after this meeting in regard to it.
Okay, the sooner the better would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions without notice? Okay, thank you. There are no petitions. There are no deputations. So we're now moving on to planning matters. Excuse me for a moment. We're now sitting as a planning authority. Under the provisions of the Land Use Planning Act, Planning and Approvals Act 1993, Council acts as a planning authority in regard to items included in item Agenda 11. Planning Authority. The first item is 11.1, Midlands Highway, Kings Meadows, CT 1557-4/7, construction of an acoustic wall. We have speakers for that. So if the person could come to the microphone to speak, please. Name and address first.
Good afternoon. My name's David Coe from Pitt and Sherry. I'm here representing the Department of State Growth. In 2020, the state government developed a heavy vehicle driver rest area strategy across the state to allow truck drivers to take their required breaks when travelling along the road, and it was seen as a safe working initiative by the state at that time. One of the sites selected was between the section between on the Midland Highway between the Bass Highway and the Kings Meadows connector, where there is already an existing informal pull-off area which is used by road users and maintenance crew. The design was initially developed without a wall to facilitate the parking of 5 trucks. At that time, it was our understanding the proposal was exempt from planning as it was part of the road corridor. But following stakeholder engagement, the local residents requested a wall be provided at the boundary of the rest area and their properties. And following consideration, the department decided to include that wall within their considerations and include it in the design. The proposals were discussed with council at that time, and following discussions, it was agreed that the proposal would go through to development, application and planning. Following advertising, no representations were received from the general public. However, council planners confirmed their concerns the wall did not comply with the scenic overlay requirements. The department entered negotiations in good faith and put considerable effort into preparing an alternative lower 2.5 metre high wall and prepared visualisations accordingly. I can show pictures of these visualisations if you want. However, it is now apparent the assessment of the application has been based on the higher wall, and the council planners are recommending rejection of this. We respectfully request that the councillors review this recommendation in the light that the wall is being supported by the local community and, in our opinion, doesn't impact on visual amenity.
Thank you, and I do apologise, there is an amended motion to today's motion, so I might just ask General Manager Van Reet or Richard to advise what the changed motion is.
Right, thank you. Unfortunately, during a late review of the item, it was noticed that the second clause in the recommendation shouldn't be there. And so what we're recommending to the council is that the second clause, the 2.6.4.3 fencing, just be deleted from the recommendation. Everything else in the recommendation remains the same, except for the second clause of the proposed or recommended refusal.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you just repeat what that's at? I might.
The amended recommendation is to delete the second clause in the recommendation. So there are two clauses in the agenda as published, one on visual impact and one on fencing. And the amended recommendation is to remove the fencing element entirely. So leaving one on page 20.
Yeah, so just the visual impact statement.
Correct.
Is advanced, okay.
So the recommendation is that in accordance with section 51 and 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Launceston, a permit be refused for utilities construction of an acoustic wall along the Midlands Highway CT 1557 4/7 for the following reasons. LAU S section 14.7.1 visual impact performance criteria P1. The proposed acoustic wall fails to protect the visual qualities of the southern approach into Launceston and the municipality by being intrusive and incompatible with the existing natural character of the area. So I've got a mover of the motion, Councillor Harris, a seconder, Councillor Walker. I'd like to speak, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor, Acting Mayor. I might ask a question first. Reading the report, we talk about the fence being 4 metres high, and yet Mr Coe seemed to indicate that the fence was only 2.5 metres high. Did I mishear or misread how high the fence actually is?
No. So when we originally received the application, it's 4 metres high with an extra 2.7 retaining wall in some sections, so that would be its highest. This application was originally proposed to go to council in August last year. Now, it was removed, so we did enter discussions with the Department of State Growth in good faith to try and achieve an outcome that everyone would be happy with. As part of that, we did receive a revised plan. It was only a site plan, however, where they did look at reducing it to 2.5 metres. The plan, however, there was insufficient information within that to clarify exactly how it complies. So we've assessed this proposal based on the advertised plans only, which is the 4 metre high wall.
Thank you. So I guess if that's the assessed plans that we're looking at, that's what we must make our decision on. A wall that is 200 metres long, 4 metres high, but up to 6 metres off the ground level, because the ground does fall away in certain places and there will need to be a building up of the ground to make it level. And the images that I have seen indicate that this is simply a plywood wall. A great, canvas, blank canvas for the graffiti artists of our city, I'm sure, which is really part of the reason why I'm supporting the planner's decision that we should be refusing this. This is a scenic protection area, and a scenic protection area deserves to be respected and not have a 4 metre high plywood wall, which will ultimately over time become graffiti heaven for a number of our citizens on the entrance to our city. It is simply as plain as that. To me, it's a great opportunity, however, because it is going to be in sections. And so it does offer the opportunity for the Department of State Growth to relook at this. Whether the height is 2.5 or 4 metres probably won't really matter. It's all about what they're going to put on it. And in fact, we have shown with various graffiti strewn buildings around the city that if you in fact paint murals on them, the graffiti artists leave them alone. However, that is not what the State Growth has proposed here today, but perhaps that's what they might propose when they come back. But I am looking for the support to support the officers to say that this is not an appropriate fence to put at our entrance to our city, because it certainly does it does not protect it. In fact, it invades the visual qualities of our southern approach to our city. So really, that's about it. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. And look, I certainly appreciate the efforts that consultants like Pitt and Sherry go to in preparing these designs, and indeed the state government's efforts in providing layover spaces for trucks. We've seen one out near Longford. We've seen another contentious one on the Bass Highway more recently, one down in outskirts of the bypass around Brighton down south. They're fairly desolate affairs, I must say. Now, I know we're not here to judge our pullover bays, but I've certainly seen some better ones in other parts of Australia that are well catered for seating, shelter, toilets, water, grass, trees, and the like. The ones that we are seeing are fairly desolate, tarmacked areas. Perhaps there's talk of a rest room area and things like that, but nonetheless, between the highway and this wall will generally be a tarmacked area. Now, I accept that Council has approved these developments that do come up close to the highway, both in that area and a bit further along the highway. There are houses within maybe about 20 metres of the highway. Now, that's because the state planning system allows that to happen. I think we'd all prefer that there was a much wider buffer and that a fence wouldn't be even necessary. But my difficulty is with these fences as a part of the entrance to Launceston, which at the moment I think everyone would have to agree is by and large a green scenic area. It's a spectacular entry to a city, and we're lucky to have that. And yes, we should protect it. I think anyone who's travelled up the northwest coast will have seen these types of barrier plywood fences on the strip, on the coastal strip heading towards Burnie. They're not the most pleasant things to look at, but that may be no reason to vote against this. But essentially, what we're being asked here is to diminish the entrance to our city in order to facilitate a truck layover bay, something that we haven't been consulted on, something that if we were consulted on, I think might find that there are alternative suggestions and ideas. But this might be the theme of the day, really, that state growth and the state government, by forging ahead with these things and not having an open discussion, not just with us, but with the Launceston community about these assets, I'm sure that we could come to an amicable solution, rather than this situation that we find ourselves in, where we're having to refuse someone something that, bear in mind, this won't stop the truck bay going ahead. They can still build it, and the people that live in that area, probably would prefer to have a barrier than none. So it's a less than ideal situation that we find ourselves in. I won't be supporting, I will be supporting the council officer recommendations, and I would encourage State Growth to have a conversation with Launceston Council, because I've got a couple of ideas that they might like to discuss. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any other speakers? Councillor Kai?
I have a question more than
Question?
to speak, yeah. I'm going to read a little section on figure 2 of site plan. On figure 2 of site plan, it says, the roadworks for the upgrades to the existing heavy vehicle driver rest area are wholly within the road reserve and are exempt from a planning permit under clause 4.2.4 of the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Launceston. And then on the other side of this picture, there's another section that says only the proposed acoustic wall, which is approximately 205 metres long and wholly within the existing road reserve, requires a planning permit. So my question is, if we support the planning officer's recommendation to refuse this wall, is there anything to stop the state government from putting in the 5-truck rest area? Because if there isn't, I really feel for the residents living in that area with the noise and at night time with the headlights and all that as well. So I'm sort of concerned. So if my question could be answered, thank you.
You're correct that the wall is the subject of the development that requires an assessment. The truck stop area is exempt under planning, under the planning scheme, and it could be constructed without any planning approval.
Another question, is there any way of the council planning officers working with the Department of State Growth to design something that will improve the visual impact so that it will comply?
With regard to the fence? Yeah, look, we'd welcome further discussions. There was discussion from the previous council meeting, when it went up to council last time. There just, from our view, wasn't sufficient information to actually assess with any of those changes. But we'd more than welcome if this is supported today as a refusal. We'd be more than open and happy to enter into further discussions to find a suitable alternative.
So I'm still concerned by not approving the wall today. There's a possibility that the state government or the state growth won't come to talk to council and they will just put in that rest track in. So is there anything that the council can do to prevent that from happening so that a resolution can come to term?
There's nothing further that officers can do other than remain willing to engage with the Department of State Growth. You're correct. It's entirely open to the department to continue to move ahead with the rest stop. And we will remain open to discussions around what form a fence or acoustic wall may take.
You don't wish to speak now? You just questions? Yep. Question, Councillor Pentridge.
It just seems a little bit disappointing, and I hate using cliches. I'll have to buy some more books. This seems another time when the operation has been a total success. We've abided by all the rules and the patient has died. I can't see why we don't talk to these people. I support my fellow councillor here, Councillor Kai. It seems regrettable. I mean, I personally am not a supporter of that wall being built for all the obvious reasons as per our planning department. But the residents bought those houses knowing they were next to a highway. But on the other hand, surely to God, we can work together and come up with a reasonable solution that'll suit all parties.
Is that a question, Councillor Pentridge? I think it's more a statement.
I'll have to reframe that next time.
Any other speakers? You might turn your...
Can we work together to solve these things rather than come up with reasons why we can't?
Yes, we can, Councillor Pentridge, but we can only decide the matter that's before us today.
Any other speakers? If not, move to the motion.
Thank you. Yes, so it is a difficult one, and as Councillor Kai has found out, I guess, as stated, the State Growth can still build this layover where they want in their road reserve without a fence. However, the best way of getting a fence that might be appropriate for the area, could be integrated into the landscape, shall we say, is by us sending a message to them by denying them their planning application and saying, come back and talk to us again. So the council planners remain and welcome further consultation and discussion with State Growth or their agents, Pitt and Sherry, and I hope that is what is the outcome from us denying their application today and supporting the planners by saying no to this DA. Thank you.
Okay. Take a vote on it. All those in favour of the motion? All of those against? Councillor Palmer against and all others in favour of. Motion is carried. We now move on to item 11.2. 11.2, excuse me while I get there. Which is 2 Invermay Road tree removal. We do have, I think, a number of speakers listed. Thank you very much. So would Ben Goodser like to move to the microphone? Please state your name and address, please.
Thank you. I'm Ben Goodser. I'm the CEO of Infrastructure Tasmania in the Department of State Growth. And we're responsible for delivering the $130 million UTAS redevelopment project. Joining me today, I have Anthony Dalgleish, our project team architects, PLA, and also have Patrick Correll is our planning consultant as well, and they'll be addressing specific matters in relation to this application. I just wanted to provide a bit of an overview in relation to the project before the rest of the project team have specific matters that they'd like to address. This is a significant investment from the Tasmanian and Australian government, $130 million into the Launceston community, and the Tasmanian, a very important community asset in Launceston and northern Tasmania more broadly. We have the project team has been working on the design for many months now, and we have undertaken significant consultation with stakeholders and user groups across a whole range of different codes and people that are using the stadium regularly and irregularly. And at the end of the day, we have been working through our list of priorities for investment to make sure that we get the best bang for the buck with $130 million. We've come up with a list of priorities that we'd like to invest in and then make an improvement to the stadium for the community. And essentially they are around improving the player and the spectator amenities around the stadium. It's about creating new and improved hospitality facilities and corporate box, and also improving the sustainability of the facility and access to the facility, more importantly. It also includes ensuring that we pick up and invest in any outstanding upgrades and maintenance issues that need to be improved over time as well. So we've been focusing on those components of the design, and at the end of the day, it'll be a really valuable asset to the community that will be able to attract new sporting events, maintain the existing events that are here, but also beyond that, there are other events and functions and facilities and conferences that will be able to attract, and they will improve the economic activity in Launceston and create jobs both through construction and ongoing maintenance. I just wanted to, is that it, or could I just...
You can finish.
I just wanted to say that it is a difficult build. It's happening during, we want to make sure there's minimal disruptions, that current events can continue and new events can be attracted. This adds complexity to the whole build and the timeline. And we want to make sure that these things are managed appropriately going forward. This means that any delays in construction or the planning period just adds significantly to the cost. At the moment, we're in a very busy period, and the design and the consultants that we have engaged are costing a few $100,000 every month. Cost escalations at the moment mean that any delay adds hundreds of thousands of dollars to the actual build. So delays mean that there's costs involved and less money can go towards improving the asset going forward. Just wanted to make those points and say how important it is, and I'd like to introduce our architect to provide some more details around the specifics of that, the design and the need to remove the tree.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Anthony Dalglish.
Afternoon, Anthony Dalglish, Philpolite & Architects. I wanted to give a very quick rundown on why we're required to remove the tree, which is the development of the new Centre West stand. The Centre West stand is being developed to maintain the Tier 2 AFL and Cricket Australia guidelines. It's a 4-level structure. The ground level contains the player amenities, change rooms, warm-up medical facilities. That houses an AFL team, but can also be split for 2 cricket teams or smaller community teams. Level 2 is a coaches and flexible suites level, which can be used on game day, but also outside of game day for the community. Level 3 has a 310-person function facility, which again is used on game day, but also as a community asset outside of game day. And level 4 is a media and commentary level. Along with the Centre West stand development, there's a lot of infrastructure upgrades we've got to do, including relocating the stormwater pump station. We have to separate the fire mains and water mains, so that's new water mains and new fire mains we have to bring onto site, along with moving the existing light tower. All of this is brought about because the Centre West stand has to be located on the Centre West. It has to be oriented into the middle of the field of play, and some of the paperwork that you would have in front of you shows that it's constrained by obviously by the ground, but also to the north, there's north and south are existing grandstands. So the only way that building can go is to the west, and unfortunately that impedes into that the zone of the existing tree that's there now. So unfortunately that's the reason behind the request for the removal of that tree. But as part of this design, we're looking at options for replanting more mature trees and also how we can use that timber from that tree in the future design. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Patrick Carroll.
Patrick Carroll from ERA Planning and Environment. Dear Deputy Mayor, councillors and staff, thank you for your time this afternoon to provide you with a deputation on the proposed removal of a Dutch elm tree at UTAS Stadium. We are representing the Department of State Growth, who is leading the project on behalf of the Tasmanian Government. You've already heard from Ben and Anthony, who have provided an overview of the project and the rationale for the tree removal, as well as the design requirements for the stadium. This application has been considered against the particular purpose zone and specific area plan that apply to the site, as well as all relevant codes under the planning scheme. This application meets the permitted standard for the vast majority of those applicable provisions, invoking just 2 discretions. For these 2 discretions, we have demonstrated that both performance criteria can be met. Council's assessment concurs with the tree removal meeting the requirements of the planning scheme. The application is supported by detailed studies, including heritage, site contamination, and an arborist report. Council's infrastructure team assessed the proposal and, as included in your agenda documentation, are supportive. Similarly, Council's heritage officers have assessed the proposal and are also supportive of the tree's removal. We have reviewed the proposed permit conditions as recommended by Council staff, and we are satisfied with the conditions as they are drafted. Any amendments, however, may jeopardise the project's timelines and may have funding implications. We reinforce to you that the tree will not be removed until the main stadium works have been assessed and approved by Council. In our view, there is a clear pathway in which councillors can approve the application you have in front of you, and we seek your support in our application. So in summary, the proposal performs well against the planning scheme, invoking just 2 discretions under the scheme. Heritage values of the site will not be lost as a result of the proposed tree removal, as demonstrated in the heritage impact assessment provided by Purcell. The land may be contaminated and this will require management to mitigate risks. The recommendations of the assessment we have provided, together with Council's conditions, will ensure that the land is suitable for the proposed tree removal. I welcome any questions, and I thank you for the opportunity to address you all this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Patrick. Frank Russell.
Deputy Mayor and councillors, my name is Frank Russell. I live in 54 Thistle Street together with my wife. I've been involved with the care of this magnificent elm tree for around about 12 years as the consulting arborist for the Launceston City Council. And I would ask, before I forget to ask the councillors this particular question, I would ask you to, if you don't know the tree already, before you make your decision, please visit the site and visit the importance and the spectacular placement and health of this particular specimen. I would ask that of you. I am vexed by this issue because I'm a keen football supporter, and I actually applaud that the stadium is being upgraded. So to me, I want to see the stadium upgraded, and it's vexing to me that that actually means potentially the removal of this particular specimen of elm tree. May I quote to you an article entitled "Significant Elms of Southeastern Australia." The planting of elms throughout Australia began early in the 1800s by British settlers. Due to the spread of the Dutch elm disease and the untimely demise of the elm species throughout Europe, Australia's mature elms that can be found in parks, public gardens, country townships and streets are now regarded as some of the most significant elms in the world. And I also appreciate that the proponent, having had a chance to read through the workshop, that the proponent and the presentations this afternoon, that the architects and the proponents have done their utmost to try and save the elm tree. That is to be very much respected. The only pathway, it would seem, I'd better make this short then.
We can't give extensions, but I'll allow a little bit further.
Okay, thank you. We are not sure precisely what species of elm this is. It may well be the elm is quite rare, and it might be worthwhile just investigating the actual species of this actual elm. We don't know for sure it's Dutch elm. The proponent in one section of the plan has stated that this tree is not significant and doesn't hold value. Of course, I have an emotional attachment to this tree, but I would also say this, that we now call it UTAS Stadium, but it used to be called York Park. In that sense, the intention was for a stadium to be surrounded by magnificent gardens and trees. Those trees were planted for purpose and with a plan and with purpose. So I would say to you that hopefully if you have a chance to view the tree, you will just see how significant and valuable this tree actually is in its place. And I have two questions. There's an area marked in red on the proponent plan, which includes another important tree in the area, a Cedrus deodara. So my question is, will the proposed development affect the other large tree in the area? And in what way is that going to affect the tree? And I'm sure the proponent has already thought of this option. Instead of going west to mean the tree's demolition and destruction, is it possible to go up and regain some space by going in the skyward direction rather than towards the west for the tree's destruction?
Unfortunately, we can't ask questions here,
sorry.
Mr. Russell, but thank you. One of the councillors might take it up for you. Thank you for those presentations, everyone. There are no other speakers on my list. I assume there aren't any others. Thank you. We might now go to, the motion is that in accordance with section 51, or the recommendation, sorry, is, sorry? So, yep. Please come up. That's right.
Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. I'm Rosie McKinnon. I'm co-chair of the State Branch of Australian Garden History, which is a national body with over 2,500 members, and in Tasmania we have over 200. Basically, we're interested in advocating and preserving historic landscapes, national and both state and natural landscapes, not so much built landscapes. Firstly, I'd like to endorse all of Frank Rossell's comments. And I look and ask the question to the council, can there be a win-win? As always, that's the best option. Could there be an extension somewhere else, probably up, for this function centre and corporate boxes, and somehow keep the tree, even as a sculpture, that is in sight of those that arrive at the function centre when they walk in, and they have this remembrance of what was it like, this beautiful tree, and unfortunately it can't be there any longer. But maybe that's a way of reminding the patrons that this is what has happened, but we're honouring the statue of this tree, and we could look at a sculpture of some nature. Terrific that I believe there is some idea of making furniture, and some Acer rubrum, which is terrific. I'd like to talk to those that chose those particular species and whether they have the ability to survive the winds we've just had this week. But that's not the point right now, but I would be interested to be involved with that decision. This tree is part of our history. It creates a greening canopy, and I believe the council has a very high priority right now for its greening urban strategy. I'll leave it with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. McKinnon. Any other speakers before I move on to the motion? Okay, the motion is, the recommendation is that in accordance with the section 51 and 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Launceston, a permit be granted for tree removal of a tree at 2 Invermay Road, Invermay, subject to the following conditions. I won't read those out other than I guess number 3, I'll just highlight that the tree approved for removal as shown on the endorsed plan shall not be removed until a planning permit is issued for the UTAS Centre West Stadium upgrade. So do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Harris, a seconder? Councillor Britton. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to our speakers from State Growth and also Rosie from the Australian Garden History Group. A difficult one, and yes, I have been out to see the tree. I went out and saw the tree when the last AFL game was there as well. Being deciduous, of course, it doesn't have any tree leaves on it at the moment, and in fact it's a really interesting part that when you consider the main use of the stadium is in fact during winter, that in fact most of the time the tree will just be bare. It will be without its leaves, which in summer are in fact fantastic. However, you don't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. And if we are to progress the UTAS Stadium development, as we hope to see with $130 million to be spent on it, then the area that needs to be, I guess, somewhat of the missing tooth of the current development that exists on that football ground is the existing North Launceston change rooms, which are built just straight up, rather than having the seating that extends on the grandstands on either side. And as soon as you join up those 2 grandstands to make one continuous grandstand, you need to come back to achieve that because of the root structure of an elm tree, which is as big as the canopy is on top, there's as much root underneath. So when you see 27 metres across it, there's 27 metres worth of diameter of root ball underneath it, which you would, if you were trying to move it, you would have to pick it up and move it, which would just be logistically impossible. So if we are in fact going to proceed with the UTAS Stadium development, and it is to be done as the architects have suggested, to be done in 4 levels, remembering the other 2 levels are only 2 levels, so this already is going to sit up amongst that. And having a 310-seat function area on level 3, to me, you won't do that without impacting that tree. So if we're going to have the new stadium, the tree will have to go. If there's any doubt that the stadium changes do not proceed, the motion with item 3 says they can't cut the tree down, which means it will still be there until such time as something else has replaced it. If it was planted in the 1940s, York Park in those days, the main grandstands were much narrower, and certainly it would have been outside of that development, and even probably what the people of Launceston would have thought to build a stadium that holds 24,000 people or thereabouts would just have been well outside their imagination of what UTAS, or in fact York Park, would ultimately become. I can still remember there being cars parked around the ground and being asked to turn their headlights on in the middle of winter simply because it was getting too dark to play football. And of course a honk of the horn every time a goal was scored. So the ground has changed a lot. The historic hedge that used to be at the northern end of the ground that many a child snuck in through has well been gone, and I'm sure, Councillor Dawkins, I'm sure there were many debates about whether that should happen, but now we all look at it. The offer to plant 4 new trees that are mature, I do hope that they can stand 130 km/h winds, but that is then going to be planted in areas that we know won't need to be touched under this development, so that they do in fact provide shade, as the existing tree does, throughout the summer whenever other events may be in there. So I do ask for your support today. This is to give the architects surety so they know how they can plan and design the grandstand. It is a key part of the $130 million development, and it is a key part of York Park being considered a Tier 2 stadium. So I look forward to anyone else's comments around the table. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Councillor Britton.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. A very tricky one. And I'd just like to say to the representatives that I do understand everything you've said. In my own boredom, I've looked into trees, mycelium, the way they talk to each other. It's a fascinating subject, and I think a lot of people don't really understand it. However, we can sit and talk about that for a very long time if you want after the meeting, but to me this isn't about the importance of this tree. To me it is more important about the development that this city is going to receive, 130 million. It would be fantastic if both of these things could work together. At the moment I can't see a way forward for that. This council has done a lot. We have done our urban greening strategy. We pay particular attention all the time. Heritage is brought up in this chamber, and unfortunately, at this moment, heritage doesn't apply. We've gone to the lengths to make sure we plant 4 more trees. We want to reuse the wood, and ultimately, I don't want to dismiss the importance of the tree or any tree. However, to me, this investment in our city is more important than this tree. Again, I want to say I don't want to detract, and in a different scenario, I would happily have potentially a different view. But at the moment, staring down this decision, I will be in support of the recommendation today. Thank you.
Question, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair. Could the planning officers explain the 2 discretions that are at play in this particular development application?
Thanks, Councillor Walker. My understanding is there's only one discretion under consideration, and that's clause 6.6.10, which is the removal, destruction or lopping of trees or removal of vegetation that is specifically part of a local heritage place, and that clause comes under the local heritage code. There's no permitted pathway under that code, so we rely on the performance criteria for any tree removal, and there's essentially the provision requires that the removal of the tree or vegetation mustn't cause an unreasonable impact on local historic heritage significance of a local heritage place, having regard to the values of the place, the age and condition of the tree, the size and form of the tree or vegetation, the importance of the tree to the local heritage significance of a local heritage place, and any advice by a suitably qualified person. So it's whether the impact is unreasonable, taking into account sort of five considerations.
Another question, if I may, Chair. Then it's also the case so that the heritage impact assessment is questioning whether this indeed is part of a registered heritage area as far as 2 Invermay Road goes, that this may or may not be included in that heritage area?
Part of the response to the request for further information, the heritage consultant detailed that, queried whether it was part of it. My assessment, and in speaking to the Heritage and Urban Design Officer at Council, is that those local heritage listings automatically apply to the whole title, and unless, I guess, there's further work done which can define it, and in this case there is no data sheet for it, then it is my view that the code does apply because it applies to the whole title.
So to be clear, the code does apply, and the code states that the removal or lopping of a tree with unreasonable impact to the heritage is a discretion of this council, and that's this council's complete discretion. It's not something that is negotiable or arguable, but it is the discretion of this council whether that is an undue impact.
Do you want me to answer a question?
It was definitely a question.
So I guess you don't have complete discretion because the discretion only applies to that particular clause under the code. So it's not just let's make a decision, whatever we feel like. You need to ensure that that clause is met or not met.
I suppose that was the inference. If you have deemed that that clause was met, Council has complete discretion to refuse the application.
So did you say if it was met, Council has just...
If this table believes that clause has been met, they have the discretion to refuse.
If the Council believes that it's been met, then they should err on approving it, because if that's their view, then it's unlikely to be supported at the tribunal.
Thank you.
Councillor Pentridge, was yours a question or to speak? Question, Councillor Britton.
Thank you. Just to make it abundantly clear, can our decision be taken to TASCAT after this? Yes, can.
Yes. Oh, do you want me to go? Yes, if you follow the recommendation and look to approve it, then the representors can take it to TASCAT, and if you look to refuse it, then the proponents can take it to TASCAT, and the representors could be a joint party in that proceeding as well.
Councillor Dawkins.
Well, that leads on to what I'll rise to say today then. So we're all here to play a role today. It's very clear. Planners are playing their role, proponents theirs. We have an arborist with a very clear mission and somebody involved in gardening from a historical perspective. My role here today is to try and be a bellwether or to allow the community voice to come through on this particular matter, and I'm here erring on the side of the tree based on the fact that I believe that if we were to test C6.6.10 in the tribunal, that we would get a fair hearing. I think it is up for debate on whether or not it would be heard and would succeed, but I believe based on what I've heard from my community and how I feel about this historic precinct and this particular tree. It is of historic value. There is a significant impact to it being removed. So somebody, I believe, needs to speak for the tree today and just speak to those historic and issues and the particular public interest around saving this tree, and hope that other councillors follow my view and that we will potentially go to TASCAT, be supported, be defended, and find out what the outcome is in this particular instance, because here we've got what we often find, I suppose, under our particular system is elite sport versus a living entity of historic value to a community. I understand that most people are going to have an interest in sport. That's not my particular interest in this matter today, even though I was one of the children that did used to sneak through and watch football from the hedge. But I believe someone needs to stand and speak in this instance for this tree, because it is, as we've heard, it's healthy, it's unique in lots of ways, it does have historic value to the community, and I do believe that plans could be resolved for both, so that we get our elite sport, we get our improved stadium, but we also get to keep this tree.
Councillor Pentridge.
Thank you, Andrew. I have to agree. There's more than tools. I can't believe I'm hearing some of the things I've heard. And we've got York Park, which will always be the moat, an asset that belongs to this community. And we've been listening to all the pies in the sky. And please forgive me for using all the old cliches, but I'm that generation. This community, York Park, belongs to the people of Launceston. And I'm just wondering, another one about carrots and donkeys. I'm just wondering, the carrot that I see, we've got $130 million that up until recently, I was always led to believe was given to this city and to this council to continue developing York Park. Now all of a sudden, of late I've heard, it's not really given to us at all. Our politicians wanted our vote for the 130 million, but it's actually going to the state government, and we have to give them $100 million worth of asset that belongs to the people, and we might get a football side that comes here and plays a little bit more. I just can't believe it all, actually, and I'm sorry. What you've both said, this is a beautiful tree, and I hope to God that my colleagues here do not turn around and support this based on a pie in the sky. This stadium, that's a long way from being approved yet, and I think if we turn around and we're going to want a lot more assurances before the people of Launceston sit back and hand this stadium over to the state government, who obviously represents the state government, not the people of Launceston, because we don't get the money, if I'm correct from what I've been told, unless we give them the building. Well, I wouldn't mind doing a few business deals on that basis. I think we need to seriously think about all this. And the tree's beautiful. 120 years plus that tree survived. And as my colleagues have said, huge winds, storms, God knows what else. And we're about to chop it down for some make-believe big stadium that's going to be the be-all, the end-all. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. Councillor Britton?
Do we have a list of heritage trees? Like, have we been around the city and listed trees as a heritage list themselves?
No, we don't.
Does that happen in other municipalities, councils?
We have had one previously, but we haven't had one possibly in the last 15 years or so. In previous iterations of planning schemes, we had them. Planning schemes, the things that we can do in planning schemes come and go. There is the ability for us to have one should we choose, but we haven't got one at the moment.
Councillor Raze, speak. Sorry.
That is not to say that trees on heritage properties don't have value. There is the opportunity to individually list and recognise individual trees, should we wish to. There are a number of trees on properties that are heritage listed. Now, a tree on a heritage listed property isn't necessarily part of the heritage fabric of that property. And generally speaking, they need to be identified as being part of the heritage in order to benefit from the heritage protection. So not every tree on a heritage property is a heritage tree, so to speak. But there is the possibility to deal with heritage, original plantings and key features on heritage properties if they're part of the data sheet. I think the issue here is that that's not the case in this instance, that they're not individually recognised, and the heritage significance is about the sporting, the continued sporting use of the site.
Councillor Raze.
Thank you. Well, to help you to understand about elm tree, I have a special affiliation to elm trees. Because 25 years ago, I moved to my house, and there were trees. And then when I asked a tree surgeon to come and look, he said, "George, you have got an elm tree." I said, "No way." We trimmed it, and it's the most beautiful tree you could imagine. So I've been with it for 25 years. But what's the beauty about these trees is that you could see 4 seasons in 1 year. The autumn will come and the leaves will turn to yellow and orange. As Councillor has said, so, well, in the winter there are no trees. But that's the beauty about trees in winter. You could see the beauty of tree from its branches. That's why they were the best thing in painting them. And then you've got the summer, where the green leaves come to life again. So you could see how you can feel the 4 seasons in one. Why do we like Tasmania, by the way, compared to the mainland? Because we see all 4 seasons in the state, and that's related to trees like this, because they change leaves. We'll ask our colleagues about doesn't have heritage value. What do you mean by heritage value? It's 80 years old tree, this one. It's one of the most healthiest trees in the place. Now, compared to mine, I mean, this is beautifully well looked after. And we are looking at some brick walls, and we say, no, you cannot demolish them. And we have major 8-story building, and still they accommodate brick wall in the building. My feeling is, we have major development. Couldn't they, we have got a massive space in the Utah State, and couldn't we accommodate these beautiful trees? Why do we want to turn our stadium, like any stadium, massive structure? This is the beauty why people from the mainland, they love coming to Launceston. Why? Because our stadium is so like community as stadium. Because they see all these beautiful trees around that they are like more than 80 years old. So my feeling, to answer that, I love the trees like elm trees, and we should maintain them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kai.
Thank you. Under the code, the discretion is also the only part of the planning scheme that is applicable, which is C6.6.10, and there is no acceptable solution, so it relies on performance criteria. So to me, when it relies on performance criteria, it is up for interpretation. And over the last week or so, I've been contacted by many members of the public regarding concerns with the removal of this healthy elm tree. And like Dr. George Raze said, it's over 80 years old. And for once, I feel like we could wear our blue hat to represent our community and still comply with the planning scheme. This is what we're here for. This is what we're elected for, to be a voice for our community and to represent them around this table. And this tree is very healthy, and I think it's been estimated to live for another 100 years. And I believe that there would be a clever way to get a better outcome with this. So I feel like once this tree is gone, it will be lost forever. But there are many ways to upgrade the stadium. We just haven't found the right way yet. So I will be happy to keep the tree and look forward to another upgrade, another design of the stadium. Thank you.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to my previous speakers. I can't help but reiterate some of what they've said when I speak today. I certainly agree through you, Chair, with Councillor Razzo that you know, we do want to be the best. We can't achieve that by like being the same as everywhere else. We have to take our own path forward in this. And in this case, we do have a history in that entire area. I mean, of course, we know it used to be it was one of our early rubbish chips, so it's got a longer history. And of course, it used to be a swamp, and it was probably used for thousands of years as a food place as well. But that more recent history, it has been the heart of Launceston's sporting life. And the people who helped develop that, first as a cricket ground and then as a football ground, also thought it was a good idea to plant a few trees, and that trees were an integral part of a sporting ground. Easy for us to come along later and say, oh, trees, you don't need a tree to play a game of footy. True enough. But at the same time, the trees were planted and certain trees were selected to provide shade for the community in that environment and to beautify the area. And it's true. Now, I don't begrudge state growth doing their job. That's what they're paid to do. But I'm paid to stand here and defend the community at the same time. This is for elite sport. And of course we would like that in Launceston, but it's interesting that this one tree has become a pivotal issue for this particular development. Let's be clear, and I'm glad that it was explained earlier on. This is for corporate boxes, this is for media boxes, this is for player and umpire change spaces, and look, they all look beautiful in the pictures. No doubt they will be. But, and of course, bringing elite sport to Launceston does benefit Launceston. But this particular development, most people in Launceston will never step inside that building. They won't see the corporate boxes. They certainly won't go to the media areas. So this particular development, the function centre, while it enhances the ground, it diminishes the ground at the same time. And that's the part that we're interested in today. As I say, I don't begrudge people doing their job, designing stadiums, all that type of thing. But York Park is the heart of Launceston, and I would like to see an overall plan for the entire area, not the piecemeal development that we're getting at the moment. It reminds me of our General Hospital at the moment, where we're getting development after development after development that doesn't necessarily fit in with the overall picture. There is an overall plan, but it's piecemeal, and it's different architects coming along, designing different things at different times. And this is another example of that. It doesn't have to be 4 stories high. It doesn't have to have the corporate centre in with the umpires' rooms and the change rooms and the media all in one building. That's not written down in any commandments anywhere, as far as I'm aware. Of course, it's in the centre of the ground. Of course, people who pay a lot of money for sponsorship like to stand in a place where they can see the entire ground and there are equidistant relationships to each end of the ground. Of course they do. And that's great. It's just a sad reality that there's an elm tree in the way, unfortunately, in this situation. And that elm tree, let's look at it from the tree's point of view for a second. It's been doing its work there for 80 years. It's been a part of the community for 80 years. And it's helped to beautify Invermay Road for 80 years, along with all the other trees. It's a pity that it's there, as far as plans go. But I think, and that's why I said earlier, when it came to the truck bays, and I know it's a different subject altogether, but that state growth, in general, need to be more communicated with this council. They need to begin dialogues that involve the community. We would all like to see an upgraded York Park, and it is York Park and it will always be York Park, no matter who is sponsoring it. This is not about corporate dollars, this is about the community. That tree has been planted by the community, and I think it is a great symbol for the precipice that we stand on at the moment. Let's not forget, York Park hasn't been handed over to the state government yet. Let's not forget, 4 people around this table voted for it not to be given to the state government. And a lot of dominoes rely upon York Park being developed as a part of the overall plan for AFL in Tasmania. And that development of York Park relies on a tree being removed. Extension, if I may.
So I'd like to move an extension. Councillor McMahon, Councillor Pentridge second. All those in favour? All councillors present.
Really just interrupted me when I was reaching the precipice there. The dominoes that go back from an AFL deal by the state government and a stadium and an adjunct stadium in Launceston and a corporate box and an elm tree and a community that has enjoyed the benefits of this space for the last 100 years. I know times are changing, but the last thing I want to see is a stadium that, like we've seen in other parts of Australia, which is just a box with a fence around it that nobody has access to, that has not got interactions with the community. We need something better. We need something innovative that sets Launceston aside, and I don't believe this is it. I understand it's a beautiful design. I can see especially the benefits of the Tier 2 change rooms and umpire spaces, but that doesn't go the same for the media centre and which already exists in the adjoining building, and the corporate space. So this could be redesigned in a smaller way, and some of those other facilities could be located elsewhere. But time is a-ticking, I accept that. Money is being spent, and that's not all Launceston Council's responsibility. Let's also get that clear. The negotiation process has been elongated. It's not concluded yet, and I'm in no mind today to support this recommendation. Indeed, I will flag that if this recommendation is not successful, I will be moving an alternate motion to refuse based upon the heritage values of the site and the retention of the Dutch elm tree.
Thanks, Councillor Walker. Any other speakers? Councillor McMahon.
Thank you. Well, I've been sitting here listening to everyone talk, and I thought I came in here with a very clear vision of what I was going to do. And I always try not to let my emotions overtake my decisions and look at the facts. That's been really hard for me today, really tough. There was obviously the risk that by bringing this to council today for the developer, that it may not be approved. So what is their plan? Do they have a contingency plan? Is it to do another development plan? Is it to take it to TASCAT? Should the stadium be transferred, they will still need to develop the area and potentially with a tree. Have they planned for that? Do we know that? No, we don't. Like Councillor Walker said, we don't have the whole plan of the precinct. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know if it's going to be transferred. There's so many unknowns in this that I think we're all asking lots of questions around it. I know that's not what we're discussing today. It is the elm tree. On the other hand, I loved Rosie's suggestion that perhaps they could do a beautiful sculpture that's at the entry for people to see and remember that elm tree as a beautiful sculpture for the community to enjoy. So I am still very conflicted about what my decision is. And I want to thank everyone for their words today and for my colleagues as well. And I have still reserved my decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and I'd like to thank the speakers, our two speakers that have been here today, their passion and enthusiasm for this Dutch elm tree. Thank you very much for being here today. And I also did like Rosie's suggestion, if the tree was to be removed, that we do save the wood and create an amazing sculpture. That is a beautiful elm tree. It's absolutely, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And look, today we sit as a planning authority. I'm looking at the facts in front of me. and I'm thinking of my community. I respect everyone else's community at this table who's been speaking to them, the people that email you, who call you, who you speak to in the community. My community are really excited about this opportunity. $130 million, an investment in our city, in our community, in our people. Player and spectator improvements, attract new sporting events, attract new conference events. Any delay will increase in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I would urge my fellow councillors to follow the recommendation, as hard as that is, because it is a magnificent elm tree. No one's disputing that. I've been to the footy many times and seen it. I've been there with my family, my children. I looked at this tree, walked past it many times, but if we remove the emotion, we are here as a planning authority, and what this will do for our city, our people, our community, in my opinion, and the people I talk to, I will be supporting the motion to remove the tree. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Palmer. I think that's all. Councillor Harris, to sum up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you to my fellow councillors for their thoughts, and it has been an interesting discussion to listen to. I guess it comes down to item 6.6.1 that says relies on performance criteria, the removal, destruction or lopping of trees or the removal of vegetation which is specifically part of a local heritage place listed in the relevant local provision schedule must not cause an unreasonable impact on the local historic heritage significance of the local heritage place, having regard to. And it goes on. This is only applicable to 2 Invermay Road as a railway yard with an adjacent sporting facility we call York Park. No mention of trees on any of the sheets involved, data sheets involved, which is necessary for a heritage listing. So therefore, what we are doing today is not breaking the heritage listing. We are in fact allowing it within it, and that is why I believe we should support this motion today. The umpires actually aren't in this stand. They're in the stand to the north. They won't be changing, but it is in fact providing for more room for more players. And not only more players, but also male and female players as well. So that is why the footprint of the stand is such that it must extend backwards towards this tree. And of course, once they dig those footprints of the lower level, level 1, it will in fact affect the tree because that's where the tree's roots are. And so once you start cutting into the area that the roots supply, their nutrients and stuff, the tree is going to die regardless. So really, if we are to have $130 million spent on York Park to improve and upgrade to a level 2 AFL and Cricket Australia listed stadium, we must support today the request to remove the elm tree, but only once a development application has been approved and work is about to start. Should that not happen, then the tree remains. And that's a very important thing for all of us to consider. It is only once the work has been approved, does it actually then does the tree have to be cut down. Up until now, it is just what the architect is planning for that space. The architect may, as a result of the feedback from my fellow councillors today, choose to change the architectural outcome and perhaps find a way to retain the tree. But I am willing to give them the licence today to say if you cannot find a way to retain the tree, then you have our permission to remove it in the future. And I look for everyone else to support the same. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. We'll now put the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please say, put the hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's right. Yeah, so I think as a consequence of that, we have a motion that is lost because it's a tie vote. So do we now need an amended motion to deal with that? We now need a new motion. Councillor Walker, you've got one. There is one that's been prepared by officers if you want to look at.
I would indeed, thank you. I imagine it is based on the clause that most people have been mentioning today.
would you like to read that out? So I can't see it. Oh, it's right in front of me. The new motion is that in accordance with section 51 and 57 of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 and the Tasmanian Planning Scheme, Launceston, a permit not be granted for tree removal of a tree at 2 Invermay Road, Invermay, due to the unacceptable impact on the local historic heritage significance of place. Are you happy with that, Councillor Walker?
Just a point of order. Should it mention the standard, the C6.6.10 in that refusal, or is that not necessary?
I think that's implied, but it could mention contrary to clause C6.6.10. That would give it more clarity.
So could we...
You just put contrary to clause 6.6.10 at the end of that. That would give it more clarity.
Have we got that?
I think it just gives some guidance. Thank you.
Yeah. Just wait for a moment. Pardon? It's locked again. We'll see what happens. So I think we've now got the update on there, contrary to clause 6.6.10. You happy with that, Councillor Walker?
Yes, and I'm happy, and I'm interested to see the vote on this because, in a sense, the motion is already lost and refused.
It's not refused. Yes.
Not this motion.
Planning applications have to be determined in the positive one way or the other. So the motion to approve has been lost, and equally a motion to refuse has been lost, which means failure to determine.
Which means?
TASCAT will make the decision.
Which means,
But not that we've taken a vote as a motion to refuse.
You're moving the motion. We haven't got a seconder for the motion yet.
Yeah, I've moved the motion. Thank you.
Seconder for the motion, Councillor Pentridge. Do we speak to this motion given that we've already spoken? It's a new motion, so do you wish to speak to it then?
It's a new motion. It's a new day for the tree. Look, this is not easy for any of us. We all understand that. This is there's nothing black and white about it. There's nothing simple about it. For the planners, for the councillors, for the community. We all want the best outcome, but we all want an outcome. And look, I have to, first of all, congratulate the council staff who've maintained that tree to an exceptional standard. And yes, most councillors have been down and had a look at the tree, and you can't help be impressed by the way it's been maintained and also its healthiness, its abundance, the shade that it provides and all that type of thing. As I said earlier, this is obviously more than just about a tree, in a sense. There's a lot that flows on from this. I would encourage State Growth to communicate more closely with Launceston Council on a number of matters where our paths cross, and that way, we can more likely avoid a situation like this in the future. This doesn't mean the development can't go ahead. This doesn't mean that anyone is against a development in the site, just not that particular development. I know that work has been done that points towards the idea that it has to be this way. If we're going to fit these things in this site, it has to include that space. So maybe there's something in the development that is not included in that site. Maybe it's taken to the tribunal and we lose. Maybe, just maybe, we win and that tree will live to fight another day or another 100 years. Time will tell, but I heartily recommend that this council make a determination today rather than leave us in limbo and support this alternate motion to refuse.
Councillor Pentridge.
Thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. One of my colleagues here reminded me of something that we attended, which was a lot of these different government-orientated meetings to try and make us better ornament. And one of it was, and I can recall this, it was and basically said never to get involved in this situation, and that someone with some common sense should change sides. So I want to give everyone an opportunity that voted against it to change sides, because I've got no common sense. So if they want to change, we can solve this by one of my colleagues having a rethink, because it's going to put us to a fair bit of trouble. Now, I'd love to be the one that had the ability to change, but I'm too old, so I'm sorry for that, but maybe my other colleagues can change. Thank you.
Question, Councillor Britton. Oh, you're speaking. Oh, sorry. Go. Yep.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I probably shouldn't, and I won't say what I was going to say actually, but when we talk about causing people trouble and coming to the other side, I think, and I just to talk perfectly honestly, $130 million development for this city, we are all sitting around here talking about one tree. I can understand the importance of a tree, but not this tree in this context. I won't change my decision, and I think this is getting to a point of almost wasting time. This development, I believe, will go ahead regardless, and maybe not, I might be wrong, but I'd just like to voice that I actually think this has gone on for far too long. This is one tree in amongst a lot of trees. There's a garden there that we have fought to hold on to and maintain. We're planting 4 more trees. I understand and respect everyone else's views, but no, I won't be changing mine and I won't be in support of this motion.
Any other speakers? Councillor Walker, would you like to close?
Yeah, well, we could say a lot about wasting time, I suppose, but shan't go there. We do all the best we can do. The people who work for the state government do the best that they can do. It's a small process called democracy that's taking place at the moment, and that, you know, like it or lump it, is the way that it has to be. This could have been short-circuited. I certainly agree with that. It might not have come to this if plans had been different, if there'd been a more consultative process with the entire design of the site. But once it was decided that council formed an intention to hand this site over to state government, they were well within their rights to lodge an application such as this with the intention of their future development requirements for the site. So we're implicit in all that. We haven't as yet handed that over, and when it comes to wasting time, the state government have certainly taken their sweet time in getting to a point where this transfer could take place, for a myriad of complicated reasons perhaps, but nonetheless that's where we find ourselves, with that uncertainty. And so you might think that those things are an adjunct to what we're talking about today. We're just talking about one tree. It's just one tree. Easy to say that. But as I tried to explain before, there's a whole row of dominoes here, and the tree just happens to be the last domino in the row. And state government should realise that there's already that disconcerted feeling around this table in regards to that handover. Surely any efforts we can make to work together in the future should be adhered to so we can avoid this type of situation in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. We'll now put the amended motion. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? So I think it's the same 5 for and the same 5 against, which means we have no determination. I think it's up to the applicant as to whether they take a TASCAT from here. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion in regards to all of it, and I appreciate it's all done with the right intent from all parties associated with it. So always difficult decisions, and they're the ones that come to this table. So I appreciate all of the contributions made by the councillors around the table and those that came in and represented for and against. We now no longer sit as a planning planning authority. We now move on to the Mayor's announcements, and I need to go to those. The Mayor's announcements have been noted. It will be noted that on Monday, the 2nd of September, the Mayor didn't participate in the industry mentor sessions at Lilydale School due to the weather conditions, and I'll be doing that next Monday. And I'll just add one from my list. I was acting on his behalf at the Father's Day service at Car Villa on Friday, the 30th of August, which was a fantastic service representing and remembering our fathers. So thank you for that. We now move on to item 15, and note that item 13, my apologies, item 13, which is councillors, my apologies, I've gone for it, councillors' reports. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Yes, I attended the Tamar Valley Leaders Lunch on the 28th of August, I should say, down at the Grand Chancellor, where we heard from Jane Bennett and 2 other speakers who are Nutfield Australia scholarship winners. And it was most interesting to hear the history of how those scholarship winners have in time changed the agricultural face of Tasmania. From what was once primarily just wool that we rode on, we now see the industries that have come back, including Jane Bennett when she went away to learn how to make English-style cheeses and brought it back and set up Ashgrove cheeses. So a great lunch and learning session we had there, attended with the CEO, Sam. But also I noticed that Nutfield Scholars were in fact having their annual conference in Launceston as well, and they were having that still on Monday down at the Grand Chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor reports? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to say what an amazing job headed up by Lee Hadley and his team over the last week in relation to the extraordinary weather that we have had and the impact it's had on our different communities. I was in Ravenswood this week, Monday and Tuesday up there, and the teams were out and about as much as they could, and I stopped and had a conversation with the team, and they were telling me that some of the crews had been up during the night, 14 hours during the night non-stop, and then heading home for a bit of a rest, then back out on the road again. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to Lee and his extraordinary team that are keeping our community safe. There's lots of trees and branches and trees that have come down on roofs and had such an impact on so many people in our community. And it's thanks to people like Lee and his team here at the council that they keep our community safe. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Palmer. Councillor Britton.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say on Friday, the 30th of August, I attended a presentation by TIA, just a bit of an update on the estuary and the overall health of the estuary. They're continuing to do good work, gaining ground in the grading of the individual areas of the estuary. And I just wanted to say good luck and thank you to the NRM North CEO, Jo Fearman, on her leaving and going to a new role. So, thank you.
Any other councillor reports? If not, questions by councillors. Councillor Harris.
Yes, just a quick question in regard to petitions and whether council can accept an electronic petition, or does it have to be a printed paper copy type petition?
Acting GM. CEO.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Councillor Harris. We can accept an electronic petition. The Local Government Act does allow for that. It has requirements around what an electronic petition is meant to include, as it does for a paper petition.
Councillor Dawkins.
Following on from your opening statement, actually, with the recent storms causing significant power outages for some of our rural communities for long periods, do we have a sense of how those in the community are faring? I know you indicated that we need to reach out and be good neighbours, but do we understand what the state government is doing to be able to rectify this?
We might hand over to GM Shane.
So we do know that as of today, we've still got over 1,000 people without power to their properties. That is mostly in the rural area, and a lot of them have been without power since Saturday. We also understand that there's probably many more days that they will go for without power. So we know our rural community are hugely resilient. And I've heard some really positive stories about how they've actually supported each other, and we want to continue to be able to support them supporting their communities. But I've also heard stories of significant isolation because they don't have access to telecommunications because towers are out or power. There's challenges in terms of potable water supply and stock watering because pumps aren't working, functioning septic tanks, and of course food storage. Unfortunately, our traditional communication strategies we use at times like these are challenging and haven't been effective in terms of the normal networks we would use. So we are really keen to hear from the community around emerging challenges so that we can support our community in coming days and maybe possibly coming weeks. Because we do want to work with the state government to make sure that we can provide the services that our community needs through these challenging times. So I would ask that those that are impacted reach out to council. It may be operational crews on the side of the road. It might be giving us a call. We can't put their power back on, but we do want to be able to support them and help managing the consequences of this extended power outage.
Thanks, Shane. Councillor Pentridge.
Look, question that I'd like to ask is, have we learned anything? I mean, the sky didn't fall down. We had some strong winds. We had a little bit of flood water, and but we did lose most of our pumps, which made the flood water even worse. Do we intend rectifying it? And what I'd like to hear someone tell me, what do we intend doing other than have radiator caps blow off emergency generators? What are we going to do? This wasn't a major storm. Might have been some strong winds, but we've fallen to pieces. God help us if we ever get the emergency that's been talked about by this council.
A specific question about generators?
Well, we need, I think we need a backup. And we could have solved a lot of our problems if we'd been able to put power. We've got no control over the power network, and we never will have. If we could have plugged generators into some of our pumps, we could have saved a lot of money and time and got rid of the water. And that's one thing. Secondly, I need to ask the question, how long are we going to continue wasting money on our river authorities? From what I read, and I don't know what anyone else did, our river within our city, which I would have thought was what we needed to be concerned about, is as bad as it's ever been. Our river down at our next neighbour, which is Lagana, is not much better. But I'd like you all to know that we have no fear of Bass Strait because that's still doing real well. Right? Something's not right here. We're just wasting money and getting nowhere.
Is that a statement or a question? Is that a statement or a question?
Well, I'm asking when are we going to start looking at it, and can we have a conversation about the report that was produced, which I don't think was worth the paper it was written on.
This is. Do you want to answer anything there, Shane?
I can have a go. I think 2 questions in there. So firstly, I must say this was not just a bit of wind. I must say in terms of the power outages and the impact on our community, this is unprecedented in my time at council. It is significant. The pumps you're referring to are owned by Taswater, owned and operated by Taswater. We have been through this exercise before, and there is no portable generator that can easily plug into these pumps. They actually need mains 3-phase power to operate. our staff, through their commitment, actually managed this event so that no one got flooded during those outages. But of course, with every emergency event, once we've finished the response, and we've still not finished the response, we sit back and review what we did learn and what we can do better. And we will do that. And we're happy to have that discussion with councillors for your input also. In terms of the, you're referring to the River Health Action Plan, I'm going to say that we're part funder of NRM North, and we fund them so they can collect this evidence and science so that we know what decisions and how we can best invest our money. Like, for example, the $140 million in removing combined drainage out of the river, which is a significant commitment from council, state government, federal government and TasWater, yet to be complete, or the $12 million that was spent on removing cattle from waterways. So there is significant investment that this council has made, and a number of strategies and visions that, again, that this council has supported. So we're continuing to invest in them. Those things don't change overnight. They take time and they take decades, and the report card is an important part of understanding how we are going on that journey. Thanks, Shane. Councillor Britton.
Thank you. Obviously, in light of recent events as well, unprecedented winds and storms, do we have any word on the scoping study for the flood mitigation report and when that will come to council?
Yeah, look, that's predominantly finished. We're just tidying up the final bits of it. Things like the weekend probably slow it up a bit for us because the resources are busy doing other things, but it's probably about a month away to coming to council for endorsement. Thanks, Shane. Any other questions? Councillor Walker?
Yes, the General Manager might just wish to sit up there for a bit longer, or he maybe enjoys stretching his legs. All right, note that the Council put out a media release in regards to the Traffic Learning Centre, or whatever its specific title is, up in South Launceston, as it's in pending opening. Two questions, I suppose. When will that be? And secondly, there seems to be an idea of an expression of interest for a mural to be painted there. Will that be going by the Cultural Advisory Committee, or is it not seen as something that is part of that process?
So the Road Safety Centre is on, I'm going to say it's likely to be finished in November. That's planned. So open in December. Our intent is to do a more official community opening in January, well clear of Christmas. The mural won't be in place in December. And that's intended to go through the same processes that we have done with our other expressions of interest for murals and public art. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you everybody for that. Notice of motion, item 15.1, which was the Tama Valley Feast Festival funding by Councillor Gibson. As he's absent today, then the decision to withdraw that motion from today's discussions. 16, there are no committee reports, I don't think. Then we'll move on to Community and Place Network. The first item on there is item 17.1. Do we have any speakers? I think we do. I thought we did. Sorry, Catherine.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Fordyce. I'm the CEO of Laurel House, the sexual assault service here in the north and the northwest of Tasmania. We provide support to survivors and work to prevent all forms of sexual violence, including child sexual abuse. I commend the City of Launceston for launching your commitment to child safety. It's long overdue. It was in December 2017 that the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse noted the important roles that councils have in leading child safety within their local communities. I particularly appreciate the efforts of council staff like Colin James and Linda Page and the working group on their work, and especially their genuine engagement with Laurel House during the process of developing the response to the Child and Youth Safe Organisation framework. I especially thank Colin for his help to relocate our event on Friday, Ribbons of Reflection, that was affected by the weather. That was an important milestone in marking the Commission of Inquiry's 12-month anniversary. However, unfortunately, new allegations against a current councillor involving inappropriate conduct towards young people threaten this commitment. I urge councillors and our local government minister, Nick Street, to act swiftly and transparently on these serious concerns. It is essential that councillors uphold your pledge to ensure that the safety and well-being of children, and to hearing and believing young people, and that you hold all people, regardless of their position of authority, to the highest standards. For those, I know that this is a really tricky time, but for those affected by sexual violence and child sexual abuse, Laurel House is available anytime at 1800 697 877, with locations in York Street and the Arch Centre on Cameron Street, where we're co-located with Tas Police and other services. Regardless of what's going on at the moment, this is an important step forward for Launceston City Council, and it is important that you take leadership in this regard. And again, I commend Colin and his team, the broader team, for this work, and really, urge you to support this statement and the ongoing investment and work that is needed in this area.
Thanks, Catherine. We have a motion there. Would somebody like to move it? Councillor Dawkins, second. Thank you, Councillor McMahon. Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you, and thank you to Ms Fordyce for her words. I think I'm just going to let that sit as it should, as we did when the notice of motion was brought to council. This is a voice for community. We do understand our responsibilities here, but I really appreciate your words. It's a very difficult day for councillors today, and for indeed all council staff, and for the Tasmanian community who have read and understood the serious implications of the allegations that have been made. We do take it very seriously. So I think there's nothing left for me to do but to read the statement. I think that's appropriate under the circumstances. Absolutely. Without further commentary. The statement that we're making two statements today, the recommendations for two statements to be adopted, one aimed at an adult audience and one aimed at a younger person audience. So for the adult audience, all children and young people have the right to feel and be safe. Keeping children and young people safe is everybody's responsibility. At the City of Launceston, we will continuously improve the way we engage with and care for children and young people. Children and young people want to be heard and want to be believed. They have opinions and perspectives about their safety, which must be respected, and they must be empowered to voice them. At the City of Launceston, we are responsible for the safety and well-being of children and young people that we engage with. We have the responsibility to recognise the signs of harm to children and to young people, and a legal and moral obligation to respond appropriately and in a timely manner. We recognise that some children face additional risk of harm. Children and young people have the right to feel respected, feel safe and protected from harm, irrespective of their gender, race, sexual orientation, ability or cultural, religious, economic and family circumstances. We will establish and maintain an administrative and governance framework which serves to promote the safety and well-being of all children and young people, to empower them and to prevent them from harm. Where harm has been caused by us, we will take responsibility for that harm and act to ensure that it does not continue and is not repeated. We will create an environment where children and young people feel safe and are safe, have their voices heard and are involved in the decisions that affect their lives. And we will sign that, if adopted today, as will the Mayor, and that will be signed by the CEO. But this is our promise to children and young people. Our promises to you: respect. We will treat everyone equally, no matter where they come from or who they are. We will make sure everyone feels included and welcome. Inform. We will give you information about your physical, emotional and online safety and what to do if you feel unsafe. Give you a voice. We will make sure that there are lots of ways for you to have a say and be involved. Help. We will listen and act on what you tell us. We will help you with your hopes and dreams, as well as with your worries and fears. Trust. You can trust that we care about your needs and feelings and will support you. We will continue to get better at what we do. Safety. We will make our place happy and safe and comfortable for you.
Thanks, Councillor Dawkins. Councillor McMahon.
Thank you. I don't have much more to add to what Councillor Dawkins has said today. The words speak for themselves. These are our commitments. Thank you.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, and I thank the council staff first, Angie, Colin, the communities team for putting this together, bringing it to councillors for some amount of consultation. I think my greatest contribution there was to reiterate that we should be speaking directly to children as part of this statement, because it's very easy to talk over the top of any marginalised community or any community that feels that they don't have a voice, they don't have a path to follow. So I appreciate the mover of the motion reading this out into the minutes, if you like, or certainly into the dialogue today, and what a journey that we're on as a community. What a transformation the community has gone through in acknowledging the hurt, the pain, the damage that has been done over decades of hiding the truth, of not having avenues for people to follow in order to address issues and to be believed. And that's such the key to this entire area, is for people to be believed. And young children, just as much as adults, have that right to be believed. And they have the right to have an avenue in which they can follow to be believed. And that is where council's responsibility starts to come in, where we can assess the events that we sponsor, the policies that we follow, the actions that we take in our community. We can make sure that in all of those things that we do, this idea and this concept is embedded in everything that we do, so that no avenue, no possibility that we can be supportive in any shape or form of someone who is taking advantage of a situation, and in this case, taking advantage of someone who does not have the capacity to defend themselves. So I'm sure everyone agrees with this today, and I'm sure that in some ways we think, well, of course you should do that. But we have to take this extra step to acknowledge it publicly, and then to continue to acknowledge it publicly in everything that we do. So I'm standing, obviously, to commend this particular work, and especially to thank the council officers and the work that they've done in the space to bring it to this point. And let's see it continue in everything that we do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Pentridge.
I can't help but agree 100%. I don't think a community without the well-being of our children, we don't have a community. Unfortunately, I'm not, and I'm treading on thin ice here, but then I normally do. We have got colleagues that, of late, and I think there was some reference made to it, might have quoted something out of another book that I read occasionally. He who hasn't sinned, throw the first stone. I think he hasn't been. There's been some allegations made. I personally have a lot of respect for his ability and the time he puts into this facility. And he's got my support until such time as proven otherwise. So I think that's about all I should say.
Thank you. Any other speakers? George?
As I stand to support the statement, I feel first amazed about the rate of child abuse. I mean, 28.5% in Australia. And Councillor Dawkins, I remember a few months ago when I put in a motion Tasmania is known as a state by charity, so the rate is even higher. But do you know that about a quarter of our population suffers from mental health illnesses? So imagine these people who have been abused, what the rate of mental health stress they have been experiencing. And I feel that it's about time we should speak about it. Children are the most disadvantaged people in our community, and we should we as leaders, we should play an active role in promoting that and support the welfare and safety of our children.
Thank you. Any other contributions? If not, Councillor Dawkins, you wish to close? No. So we'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion? That's carried by all councillors present. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. I think it's a really important statement to make today, so thank you for bringing the motion for the council officers and the great support that we've got around the table, so thank you very much. We move on to item 17.2, special events sponsorship. Are there any speakers for the first one? If not, would somebody like to move the motion? Councillor McMahon? I don't think there is. And Councillor Palmer, am I seeing your hand go up to second? Thank you very much. Councillor McMahon.
So we're looking at the major sponsorship. Special events.
Special events.
Whoops.
Sorry, special events one.
17.2. So as we know, special events are always very good for our community, and the assessment panel was quite happy with this one that came through. There's obviously a great deal of ability for local spend when we have events like this in the city. So as a group, we were happy to support this event. Thank you.
Councillor Palmer? No. Any other contributions? Councillor Harris?
Yes, I just have a question for the staff, if they may. I looked at the numbers. They're claiming nearly $500,000 to be spent on what is basically a touch football Tasmanian Championships being moved from Devonport to Launceston. They last year had 144 interstate, 240 intrastate, that is within Tasmania, and only 16 interstate. And yet this time they're claiming 360 intrastate within Tasmania and 144 interstate, which seems a rather large jump on a particular thing, which does help underpin the potential for the benefit to our community. So I'm just wondering what that's based on and whether there's any science to those numbers that they might be able to advise us of that's not obvious in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. We rely on the information that the applicants provide, and we don't go to the extent of qualifying their claims in assessment.
Councillor McMahon, would you like to add some flavour to that?
Yeah, for memory, I think when I heard the report, there were some restrictions around accommodation, the expense of getting people here, just remembering what I read last night. But I think that played a part in the fact that they think now by bringing it to Launceston, they have a greater capacity for accommodation, better deals for people who are coming. So I believe that's why there is such an increase in numbers, for memory.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to it as well, Councillor Harris?
No, not at this stage, I don't think.
Any other contributions? Back to you, Councillor McMahon. Have you got anything further to close with? If not, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. Thank you. We now move on to 17.2, is it 17.3, which is major events, and I'm not sure whether this is the one that you step out on next one, so that's right. So move the motion, Councillor McMahon, seconder Councillor Palmer. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor McMahon?
Yes, thank you. So in the major sponsorship, we have two levels, a level 1, which is a maximum of 12,500, and level 2, which is a maximum of 20,000. Offer for the people in the room who haven't actually sat on the sponsorship and events committee, it can be hard to see the figures and things that we see. So I just wanted to give a quick little rundown on some of the events that have received, or if approved today, will receive funding. The Launceston Ukulele Jamboree, an event that continues to grow and is great for our community. They have an estimated visitor spend of $103,050 with an $8,600 local investment. The Launceston competitions, visitor spend $11,450, local investment $80,000. Harmony Day, visitor spend $22,900, visitor spend $22,900. The Summer Series, visitor spend $22,900, local investment $10,000. Beacon, visitor spend $45,800, business investment $10,000. So we can see that even these smaller events, or major events, at level 1 contribute greatly to our community. Level 2, Launceston International Tennis, great to have that back in Launceston. Visitor spend $320,000, local investment $150,000. The Launceston Junior ITF Championship, visitor spend $320,000, local investment $125,000. The Ladbrokes Launceston Cup, local investment $230,000. The men's and women's Tas Open and Inclusive Championships, visitor spend $458,000, local investment $3,000. The Fungi Festival, which was one of my favourites. I didn't even know this existed, so it was great to see that. Visitor spend $91,600, local investment $20,000. Alleyways, which is a new event, which I'm a little bit excited about, music in our alleyways around the city. And they're looking at a total event cost of $58,000. So with a budget of $111,000, the amount recommended for all of these events was $127,373, a deficit of $16,373. And given the 2024-25 small event sponsorship had a surplus of $18,000, it is the panel's recommendation that the surplus be used to cover the funding deficit as per the council report, if approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And without repeating Councillor McMahon, she's an extraordinary chair. And aren't we lucky that we have such a thriving city with so many wonderful, varied events? And I'd just like to say thank you to all those people that sit there for hours and hours and hours and hours and put these submissions in, and to our team here at Council for all the work they do behind the scenes to help us as councillors understand everything that comes in. So thank you very much, and I encourage anyone that's listening, anyone out there, please put a submission in so that we can look at it for future reference. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Palmer. Any other comments from anyone? I'll just add mine, which is really just the amount of work that people go into to put these together. We wish them every success, and it's great to see the multi-dimensional things that we actually do in and around the city, which makes this place a very special place. So we'll now, do you wish to close, Councillor McMahon? We'll therefore put the motion. All those councillors in favour? That's all councillors present. Thank you very much. The motion is carried. We now move on to 17.4, which I think you might excuse yourself for one in particular, so we might deal with that one first up, and we'll bring you back. So somebody like to move that the RSPCA Million Paws Walk is, thank you, Councillor McMahon, a seconder. Councillor Palmer, anything to say in respect of that particular one?
Yes, so the Million Paws Walk, we're all very familiar with it. I'm sure some of us have taken our dogs along and participated. They requested $5,000 and had a score of 77%. Sorry, I'm just looking at what that means they got.
3750.
Yeah, anyway, so they got funding, so that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer?
No, nothing more to add.
Any further comments from anyone? I assume you don't wish to close. We may vote on that particular one. All those in favour? That's all councillors present, noting that Councillor Dawkins is out. So Councillor Dawkins, you may now return. Somebody could make sure she hears us. So the balance of the events that have been put forward for approval, would you like to move them again, Councillor McMahon and Councillor Palmer? Thank you very much. Would you like to speak to them?
I will. So our small events are the grassroots events of our community, usually by community members that bring them to the public. So they are definitely for the community. Lilydale Winter Solstice Lantern Walk. I couldn't make it this year, but I heard that it was an absolutely fantastic event, and the score of 89% reflected that. World Street Eats, we're sure we've all attended that. That continues to thrive. The Tasmanian Brick Enthusiasts, again, 86%, so all quite high scoring. Friday Night Eats, which is a new event, so we look forward to seeing that come to fruition. The Sri Lankan New Year's Festival, which is held at the Trevelyan Cricket Club, for memory. So that's great to see that there as well, with also scoring 83%. Relay for Life, which is a yearly staple. The Northern Tas Croquet Championships, which is just a small little championship. St Patrick's River Day District Day. Croquet Tas and the Riverbend Blues. So some great local smaller events, and after assessment and percentages were determined, all events, should the recommendations be approved, will receive funding accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And just to give people a bit more of a background about all these different events, being on this committee, we get to go to so many events. So if I talk about live music, dancing, cultural, interactive cooking classes, all of this fosters a sense of community and celebrates global cultures. We know about Relay for Life and all the amazing work they do. We talk about the Lilydale community, and just to give you a bit of a background with the winter solstice, I was there this year, lucky enough to attend. They had pipers there, they had the Lions Club involved, they had the Lilydale District Fire Brigade, they had the Lilydale District School. So it really is a community event, and they did have over 400 people attend this event. It was spectacular. So yeah, I fully recommend that we endorse all of these today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other contributions from anyone? Mine is just, again, it's great that we've actually got some outside of the city as well with Lilydale and St Patrick's River. It's great that we're actually sort of got diversity in regards to where we go. And I think the other positive thing is that the scores are also there for people to see. And I think what it does is shows the great amount of work that the committee actually puts in regards to these. And the amount of, it's not a 5-minute job. I'm very well aware of that. So I commend the work the committee actually does and the people that give up their time from outside of the council as well. So, assuming you don't wish to close, we'll put that vote motion. All those in favour? That's all councillors present, so the motion is carried. We move on to Creative Arts and Cultural Services Network, of which there isn't a report. Infrastructure, Assets and Network, which is 19.1 Princess Theatre and Earls Arts Centre. Would somebody like to move the motion? I don't think there are any... You're not wanting to speak, Sam? No, sorry. Would somebody like to move that motion? Councillor Britton, seconded by Councillor Harris. Councillor Britton.
Thank you very much. So obviously this motion is just to approve and begin, I believe, the refurbishment of the Princess Theatre. It's been something we've been spending a fair bit of time on over the last 12 months. There's a fair bit involved in what we're actually doing, but essentially it is being upgraded to address several critical challenges that currently affect the safety, compliance and accessibility of this historic venue. Hopefully by the end of it we do, or our Princess Theatre is refurbished and we continue to enjoy it, and like we have done for so many years so far, and I'm absolutely all for it and look forward to seeing the project and the end result. Thanks.
We do get an L Street Theatre out of it as well. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Yes,
happy to support this motion. It is interesting how this has grown as a project. Always the problem when you're retrofitting an existing building on a constrained site that the costs go up. Currently estimated at somewhere between $27 and $30 million that this council will be committing to. The input and financial resources of the state and federal government will be necessary for this to go forward, but we must be bold in where we're going with this, because you cannot drag this out. The theatre will be unusable whilst this work is being undertaken, and there is such a vibrant arts and theatre culture, not only in this city, but also supported many businesses, that we really have to make sure that this is got on with within a time frame and delivered on time and hopefully on budget to put a rejuvenated Princess Theatre, but also a newer and bigger Earl Arts Centre as well. Thank you.
Councillor Walker, then Councillor Dawkins.
On time and on budget, I just heard. That's the music to my ears if that were to be true. And, you know, well, may this be the case, if it can be. Look, I do rise to draw people's attention to the Lovell Chen presentation. It's an attachment to this agenda. It's an absolutely eloquent solution to multiple problems on that site that we have in terms of access, egress, you know, a hydro test or transient power box in the middle of the Earl Arts Centre, narrow roads, you know, for trucking docks, all sorts of things, apart from the Princess Theatre itself, which ageing infrastructure that's probably outdated in terms of the quality of access, in terms of the comfort of the seats, in terms of the loading in, loading out, all sorts of things. So I would draw people's attention to look at that. My concern is the motion today is essentially us committing to this as a project at a present cost of $30 million. Of course, we could always change our mind later, and we've spent a couple of $1 million already in getting it to this point. So, you know, we're well in and potentially about to go further in to this project. I think this project should proceed with other tier government support. I think $30 million for a council to spend on a singular project like this, you could argue, I suppose. It's for a fairly specific market, although probably most people go to the Princess Theatre or the Earl Arts Centre, maybe the Earl Theatre at some stage, at least once a year, I'd imagine. So, you know, there's no doubt that a lot of people use this space, but at the same time, it's a lot of money in a time when we have multiple competing projects that we are, you know, considering as a council or indeed committed to as a council. It's something that if we take on alone is really going to put a strain on our budget for a number of years. I suppose that's the simplest way of putting that. So I suppose I cautiously support this motion today. I would love to see as part of the recommendation that that these things are pending alternative tier government support, which it's not. I could move an amendment to put that in, but I'm not sure if that would succeed, so I'm not going to mess the, you know, scramble the eggs just at the moment, but I would, I suppose, say that for me, that seems to be part of the deal, really. And I'm sure that's what everyone would like to see as well, a co-commitment, because it is a worthy project. It is our premier cultural site in Launceston, creative precinct, performance space, and well, it should get this love and development. But yeah, with that caution, I rise to support the motion.
Councillor Dawkins.
Thank you. Yes, today again I find myself agreeing with Councillor Walker. I know, right? So I just want to stipulate that what we're passing now is if we can't get the federal and state commitment to be able to assist in this funding, which I think, you know, I think it's a pretty big ask right now. I think the state government if you listen to Saul Eslake and the budgetary constraints and considerations of the state government, we're going to be asking for something that potentially the government doesn't have to give us. So we're obliged to borrow that $30 million, which is a lot of money for this council to borrow. We're usually very conservative when it comes to borrowings. Now, having said that, I think it's for a very worthy cause, and in many ways I think we have to do it because of the accessibility issues we've got at the Princess Theatre. I can't see how we can't do it. So it's very, very clear that we need to progress this. We need to be very cautious. We need to make sure that the community understand that what we're committing today to is if we cannot find that multi-level funding, we will need to go and borrow that money. We might be able to borrow it with interest-free. We're pretty good at that. That's often available to councils. We hope that's the case. But this is a major project for the city, maybe, a major project for the city that requires significant investment from the City of Launceston in order for this beautiful establishment to be what it needs to be to make sure that everyone in the community can not only enjoy visiting the site to enjoy performance, but actually perform. Right now, people with differing abilities cannot perform with any reasonable way on that stage, and that for me is a really big problem. So Theatre North have done an amazing job of managing at every stage. We just got to make sure now that we're really clear with our community exactly what's being expected of them, because I believe that funding is going to be pretty tight at this time.
Thanks, Councillor Dawkins. Councillor Raze.
Thank you very much. Well, I stand here to support this development because I think it's badly needed in Launceston. As a user of the facility once a year, especially the state, I can understand how the theatre badly needs this development, especially not just elderly people like us, but also the disabled to be on stage. I think it's so important we can make it safe for them. But also it will facilitate access to the theatre as a whole. But more importantly, also it will improve amenities. Thank you.
Any other contributions? Back to the move. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and I stand to fully support the recommendation. What a beautiful theatre we have and what a magnificent theatre we are about to actually create for our future, for our children, our grandchildren in this community. The Lovell Chen workshops that we've had, we have been absolutely amazed by the graphics that we've seen, and I encourage anyone out there listening to us to jump on, hopefully to our website, and all the plans are there for them to see and read about and get excited about as much as we have. And the All Arts Theatre, All Arts Centre, that is extraordinary. I absolutely love it. I love what Lovell Chen have done, and I love the foyer, I love the graphics, I love the tiling, I love all the visuals. And for a theatre lover like myself, a theatre goer, theatre performer sometimes, I'm really excited about this project, and I encourage everyone else to get as excited as what I am and support this recommendation today. Thank you very much.
Any other councillors? I'll just refrain from talking because I think everybody's done such a great job. I'll hand it back to the mover of the motion to close.
Thank you. I can only agree with you. I think there's unanimous support around the table. Hopefully we do get some money from state or federal government to make that all a little bit easier. And can't wait to see the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour? That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to organisational services. 20.1, progress against 23-24 annual plan actions for period ended 30th of June 2024. Have somebody to move that motion? Councillor Harris, seconder. Somebody? Councillor Britton, thank you. Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Acting Mayor. This is our annual report. It gives an update on where we're at with most of the projects. Interestingly, I did find that a lot of them were shown as 100% when perhaps that could be somewhat less than 100, but nevertheless still well down the path. So I'm happy to pass the report or note the report I think it asks us to do, and I guess for those who are reading it, it just goes to show the breadth of what a local council has to deal with in so many different spheres. But I think it's there to be read, so I'll leave it to others to do that. Thank you.
Councillor Britton, nothing to say. Any other comments by any other councillor members? Councillor Walker?
Yes, I think the format, and I didn't get quite the opportunity to compare and contrast with previous iterations of this report, so I apologise to the room for that, because I think that we have included more detail in this report, which is heartening as a councillor to get that more sort of clarity about what specifically items, and I think that was something that was previously requested, and it's there, and that's great. I think the where we might be losing that granular detail then is with that list, some of the things within that aren't at 100%. Some are, maybe an aspect of the project itself is at 100%, but not everything associated with it. So maybe that granular sort of reporting has to extend, although you don't want to create a whole new job for someone to have to go through and assess all these things at what, 58.9% complete or whatever. So having said that, there's certain things in there, or perhaps even not in there, that do concern me. For example, and I'm being quite selfish in this process, I have passed a motion successfully on this council that we look to express an interest in Patterson Street Barracks at some point in the future. That is something that was taken carriage by the CEO, the previous CEO. So I can understand that could get lost in some translation as we have had changes within leadership, but I would expect to see that progress in this current period. There are other things in there that are mentioned that I think still have question marks over them, and I suppose one would be the intersection of Invermay Road and Lindsay Street, which is currently a roundabout that is a very problematic roundabout, and I think everyone would agree with that. But at the moment, we are progressing with the concept that traffic lights will be the solution there, and I suppose it's a question of whether that's a strategic or an operational matter. I suppose you could look at it both ways. I think strategically, we want ease of traffic movement across our city. Operationally, we want to reduce accidents and safety for pedestrians and cyclists. So that's an example of something that is being progressed, and yet I think there's a conversation to be had there about progressive ideas of traffic calming, of textured road surfaces and things like that. In an intersection like that, where people approaching from a certain angle can bolt through that intersection and cause a lot of difficulty for the other users. So I don't deny that at all. All I'm saying is that this, and this was approved in our budget, and I didn't sort of move to amend our budget, so I accept that this is work that our council staff are doing. All I'm saying to my fellow councillors, I suppose, is we do need to maybe at least double check that we are still going in the direction that collectively we wish to go. There might be some fine-tuning to be done along the way. Something like the Aboriginal Partnership Plan is in there. I suppose it's listed as 100% complete again, and yet it's a work in progress. It's something that will go on forever, I suppose. Well, I would hope. I would like, and I'm sure everyone else would. So this is where there maybe needs to be some nuance, that it's no longer, that is something that's no longer probably assessed as its percentage complete, but more assessed in its ongoing, maybe the amount of resources that we're putting towards it on an ongoing basis now, rather than, because it certainly is complete. We do have a partnership, but it needs to be something that is living and breathing for it to succeed. So I've had my 2 cents worth now. I think you've probably given me more time than was required.
The bell hasn't gone yet.
Surprisingly,
I could ring it if you like.
Surprisingly not. You might not have started the time at the right time, but anyway, I sit in support of accepting this.
Thank you very much.
Report.
Any other comment, Councillor Pentridge?
I'm with Councillor Walker. I got a phone call from Jim Cox. I'm not sure whether we still remember him. But he was Minister for Transport, I think, for a long time. And he, anyway, he's no longer Minister for Transport. No. He's no longer part of the council. But he advised very strongly that we should relook it. And I'm only saying, I'm not disagreeing, there's a times change. If our people think that the traffic lights are what we need, but I'd like to point out that I personally don't agree, and neither does he. And if it doesn't make it better, it's going to make it a lot worse. So best of luck. I mean, if we get a chance to relook at it and double check, it wouldn't go astray. It's a lot of money.
My suggestion is we do have an annual plan which puts out what we've been doing. We don't all have to agree with it. And if we have issues with it, we actually have opportunities to actually go and take it up with the officers and or the CEO in relation to the matter. So, you know, this is just because it's reported on, this is what's been done. If you don't agree with it, then by all means raise it. And if you can find a challenge to it, then that's fine, and we can deal with it as we need to. Thank you for that anyway. Any other comments? All right, with the move of the motion, like to close.
No, look, I went through some of those, and you know there are so many things that are ongoing that are shown as 100%. And so, Councillor Walker, you know, whether it be the NTCA master plan, whether it be their greening strategy, all of those things will be ongoing. But I guess from a point of view of closing off a year, you have done as much as you can in that year, and that's really what this report is saying. Just on the traffic lights at that intersection of Lindsay Street and Invermay Road, the safety of students and cyclists would be greatly improved. It is certainly not an intersection to be attacked in any way unless you are surrounded by 2 tonne of car. And that outside our premium sports precinct with UTAS Stadium and our university precinct, right there, necessitates the need to have some alternative to the roundabout, and traffic lights is the best we've got at the moment. Perhaps the future will come up with something else. But anyway, with that, I'll ask people to endorse this report.
Okay. So the council notes progress the annual report and endorses that as the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Pentridge.
Excuse me, but the one opportunity not to change my mind. What's been brought up on other occasions is that by endorsing this budget,
We're noting it.
We're actually agreeing with everything that's going on.
We're noting it. We're noting the report. We're noting the report.
Right, I agree.
So can we just have that vote again, please? All those in favour of the motion? Yep. That's all councillors present, noting that Councillor McMahon is out of the room.
Noting that.
Okay. We note that there is an item listed for item 20.2, which has been withdrawn for further information to bring back to a future meeting. So we now move on to item 21, which is the appointment of Acting Chief Executive Officer. The recommendation is that the Council appoints Chelsea Van Reet as the Acting General Manager for the period 7th of October to 18th of October 2024. Would somebody like to move that motion? Councillor Harris, seconder. Councillor Kai. Anyone you'd like to discuss it? If we'd like to, perhaps we'll just vote on it, I think. Then all those in favour? That's all councillors present. Thank you. And noting Councillor McMahon's back in the office, back in the room. Don't believe there's anything in relation to late items. We'll now move into closed council. Would somebody like to move that we move in there? Councillor Palmer, Councillor McMahon, second. All those in favour? It's all councillors present. We'll go into closed session. I think we might have a mayor. it. We're right to go? We're back on air by the looks of things. No, we're not. We're now back in open session. So would somebody like to move the motion that what we declared in closed Councillor Harris, Councillor Kai, all those in favour? All councillors present. Motion carried. We'll close the meeting. Thanks very much, everyone.